They say the brightest light casts the darkest shadow. But what if I told you that within that shadow lies your greatest power? We live in a world obsessed with light, positivity, achievement, external success. But beneath the polished smiles and curated identities, a silent force stirs. A forgotten realm teeming with emotions we've denied, memories we've buried, and truths we dare not speak. This isn't the darkness of evil, it's the darkness of the unknown, of the unloved. And it holds the key to your liberation. This is the path of shadow work, not a modern psychological trend, but a sacred initiation found in mystery schools, ancient rites, and whispered teachings passed through generations. It is the art of turning inward, not to destroy the darkness, but to integrate it. To look into the mirror of the soul and face what lurks behind the mask. You may have already felt it, a recurring pattern in your life you can't seem to break, a deep emotion that rises at the worst moments, or a strange sense that parts of you are missing. These are the echoes of your shadow, calling out to be seen. In this video, we'll embark on the first steps of shadow work. Not in the surface level sense, but as an initiation into ancient self-reclamation. You'll discover forgotten wisdom from sacred traditions that understood the necessity of embracing the dark. You'll learn what the shadow truly is, why we all carry it, and how to begin the delicate dance of integration. We'll unravel the veils of illusion, challenge spiritual cliches, and offer real, grounded practices for walking this hidden path. But be warned, this journey is not for the faint-hearted. It will ask you to be radically honest, to confront pain, and to descend before you rise. Yet those who walk through this darkness emerge luminous. So if you're ready to step beyond the illusion and reclaim your wholeness, stay with me. Because the path begins where the light ends. Long before the term shadow entered the lexicon of modern psychology, ancient civilization spoke in veiled terms about the darkness within, the hidden self, the double, the dweller on the threshold. Shadow work, though often credited to Carl Jung, is merely a reawakening of something humanity once understood deeply, the necessity of descending into the underworld of the soul. In Kemet, what we now call ancient Egypt, the shadow was known as the Shut. One of the 5 parts of the soul, the Shut was not a mere absence of light, but a spiritual double, a reflection of all that is hidden, potent, and often feared. Pharaohs were buried with statues of their Shut, not to be rid of them, but to honor and balance their unseen nature. The Egyptians understood that to ignore one's shadow was to invite chaos into the afterlife, and into life itself. The Greeks, too, encoded this wisdom in myth. Think of the story of Persephone, who was abducted into the underworld, not as punishment, but as transformation. Her descent marks the soul's journey into the depths, a necessary rite before rebirth. Or consider the Eleusinian mysteries, ancient initiations so secretive that to speak of them was punishable by death. Their purpose? To guide the initiate through symbolic death, to confront the darkness, and to emerge awakened. In the East, we find echoes of the shadow in the Taoist embrace of yin and yang. Darkness is not demonized, it is the necessary complement to light. In fact, the Tao Te Ching reminds us, under heaven all can see beauty as beauty only because there is ugliness. Integration, not division, is the path of the sage. So why has this ancient wisdom been forgotten? Because it threatens the illusion. Society thrives on the suppression of the shadow. It rewards performance, conformity, and control. There is little room for the rawness of grief, the fury of anger, or the discomfort of shame. These emotions, deemed negative, are pushed into the psychic basement. But like all things suppressed, they do not vanish, they grow stronger, taking on distorted forms. During the rise of Western rationalism and organized religion, the darker aspects of the self were labeled sinful, heretical, or evil. The soul was divided, God above, devil below. Light good, dark bad. But ancient mystics knew the truth was never so simple. The Gnostics, early Christian mystics, taught that within each of us exists a divine spark and a shadow serpent, both essential for spiritual evolution. To reject one is to remain in spiritual infancy. Carl Jung, drawing upon this esoteric heritage, gave us modern terminology. He wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Yet Jung was not inventing something new, he was translating the forgotten language of ancient alchemy, Hermeticism, and inner gnosis. The shadow, in all its forms, has always been a gatekeeper. Not an enemy, but a threshold. And those who walk the path of the mystic, the warrior, the healer, they know, the descent is sacred. To take the first steps in shadow work is to honor this ancient contract. It is to remember what the modern world has taught us to forget, that the darkness within us does not make us broken, it makes us whole. Shadow work begins not with grand rituals or mystical symbols, but with a simple, terrifying act, looking inward, and not looking away. The shadow is not some monstrous other, it is you. The parts of you that were rejected, punished, misunderstood, or deemed unacceptable. The emotions you weren't allowed to feel. The thoughts you were told were wrong. The desires you buried to belong. Over time, these fragments of your psyche were exiled, pushed into the dark corners of your unconscious. But they didn't die. They waited. Imagine your mind as a great inner kingdom. At the center, there is a throne where the self rules. But what happens when the ruler exiles parts of their realm? The banished return, as rebels, as saboteurs, as whispers in the night. That strange anger that flares when someone disrespects you, it may be a banished child within, demanding to be heard. That persistent fear of failure? Perhaps the voice of a younger self who once tried, and was humiliated. These are not enemies. These are unintegrated aspects of you, knocking. Jung called this process, shadow integration, the reunion of the self with its lost parts. But here's the paradox, the shadow isn't evil. What makes it dangerous is our refusal to face it. Unacknowledged rage can become abuse. Repressed grief can calcify into depression. Ignored envy can poison relationships. But when brought into the light of awareness, these forces transform. Rage becomes righteous protection. Grief becomes sacred remembrance. Envy becomes a mirror of desire. Here lies the sacred alchemy of shadow work, transmutation, not elimination. But how do we begin? The first key is radical self-honesty. To sit with your triggers instead of blaming others. To trace the emotion back to its root, not just its current form. When someone offends you, pause. Ask, why did this affect me so deeply? What belief did it threaten? What memory did it awaken? The second key is non-judgmental awareness. Your shadow is not to be shamed, it is to be witnessed. Imagine a part of you, locked in a room for decades, finally stepping out into the sun. It will be wild, confused, perhaps even hostile. But with time, presence, and compassion, it will soften. There's an old Sufi tale of a man who feared demons in a dark cave. Every night, they tormented him. Until one evening, he entered the cave with a lamp. And as the light touched each demon, they transformed into wounded children. This is the essence of shadow work. And yet, not all shadows scream. Some whisper. Many shadow aspects hide behind masks, perfectionism, spiritual bypassing, even toxic positivity. A person may appear serene, wise, enlightened, but if they use love and light to avoid confrontation, to silence anger, or to deny pain, they are simply dressing the shadow in white robes. True light work requires the courage to face what lies beneath. This is why the first steps in shadow work are not about healing others, but about becoming intimate with your own darkness. It is the descent into your personal underworld. Not to stay there, but to retrieve what was lost. This is the journey of the archetypal hero, the wounded healer, the soul alchemist, and it begins when you stop running from yourself. So next time you're triggered, pause. Not to react, but to inquire. What part of me is speaking now? What is it trying to protect? What was its original wound? And when you hear the answer, do not turn away. Because the shadow, once acknowledged, becomes your greatest guide. To deepen into shadow work is to move beyond introspection and into revelation, where truths long buried surface with unsettling clarity. And here is where most turn back. Because once the mask cracks, there is no pretending. But you, still here, are ready to see what others refuse to face. The shadow is not just personal, it is ancestral, cultural, collective. Some of your fears, addictions, or self-sabotaging patterns may not even originate from your own life, but from generations past. Trauma, like a spirit uninvited, passes through bloodlines until someone is brave enough to confront it. In many indigenous traditions, this role was held by the shaman, the one who walked between worlds, not just to heal the self, but to cleanse the lineage. So ask yourself, are the patterns you carry truly yours, or are you the chosen one in your line to transmute them? Shadow work, then, becomes a sacred responsibility. Not a solo journey of self-help, but a soul covenant, to confront what was hidden so future generations may walk free. But with depth comes danger. Let's dispel some myths. Myth 1, once I uncover my shadow, I will be healed. False. Awareness is only the beginning. The shadow does not vanish when exposed. It must be met again and again. Like a child who's been abandoned, it tests you. Will you reject me again? It requires consistent care, like tending a sacred fire. This is why shadow work is not a phase, it is a lifelong path. Myth 2, shadow work is about becoming perfect. No. It is about becoming whole. Perfection is the mask, wholeness is the soul. To be whole is to carry both light and dark in sacred balance. It is to be a storm and a still lake, a sword and a chalice. The integrated being does not pretend to be pure, they are honest, sovereign, and deeply rooted. Myth 3, only negative emotions belong to the shadow. Surprisingly, even your light can be buried in shadow. Your brilliance, sensuality, power, if these aspects were shamed or punished in childhood, you may have exiled them too. This is known as the golden shadow. It is the light within you that feels dangerous to reveal. Think of the woman who hides her intelligence to be accepted, or the man who suppresses his gentleness out of fear. Reclaiming the golden shadow is just as vital as facing your pain. In fact, many spiritual teachings point to this. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, as within, so without, speaks to balance. To find the divine within, we must also descend into the abyss. This is not contradiction, it is completion. Consider the Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail. A symbol of eternal return, but also integration. Life feeds on death. Light emerges from dark. To fear the shadow is to fear half of existence. So how do we embody this wisdom? We begin to see every trigger as a teacher, every wound as a doorway, every conflict as a mirror. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we ask, "What part of me is asking to be seen?" We begin to notice when we judge others, because judgment is projection. What you condemn in others often reflects what you deny in yourself. The angry man may reflect your repressed rage. The arrogant woman may mirror your suppressed confidence. Every shadow cast outside begins within. And as you deepen into this awareness, you gain a strange new power, not the power to control others, but the power to no longer be controlled by your unconscious. Because once you see your shadow, it can no longer rule you from the dark. It is now an ally, a guide, a guardian of hidden truths. And the further you walk this path, the more you realize, the shadow is not here to destroy you. It is here to complete you. Now that you've glimpsed the profound, transformative potential of shadow work, the next step is practical. We've spoken of the why, the deep truths and ancient wisdom, but how do you actually begin? What are the first steps that will set you on this path of integration? Shadow work is not a mystical concept that remains out of reach, it is a tangible process. One that, when practiced with courage and commitment, can radically transform your life. Here are some key techniques and practices to help you begin. Start with a journal. Not a casual diary, but a sacred space for dialogue with your shadow. Begin by writing down your triggers, the things that upset you, make you anxious, or spark anger. These are the whispers of your shadow. But don't stop there. Ask yourself questions. Why did this reaction surface? What belief is this triggering? When was the first time I felt this way? What part of me is being suppressed right now? In doing so, you'll begin to uncover the hidden stories and emotions that shape your responses. Each entry becomes a key that unlocks an unconscious door. But remember, this process requires patience. Your shadow may not reveal itself fully in one sitting. It may take days, weeks, or months. The key is not to rush the process, but to remain present with what arises. Once you begin to recognize your shadow aspects, it's time to engage with them directly. One powerful way is through a shadow dialogue, a practice where you literally converse with the part of you that you've been avoiding. It can be as simple as sitting in front of a mirror or writing a letter to your shadow. Ask questions like, "What do you need from me? Why have you been hidden for so long? What is the gift you hold for me?" Write the dialogue out, allowing your shadow to respond in the same way, without judgment, just pure curiosity. You may be surprised by the wisdom it offers. The process of giving voice to these hidden parts is both revealing and healing. Remember, the people around you are mirrors. The things that irritate you in others are often reflections of your own unhealed shadow. One way to access this is through projection work. Next time someone triggers you, stop and reflect. What about this person reminds me of something in myself? What part of me am I refusing to acknowledge in them? Why does this specific behavior cause such a reaction? Write about it. See how your projections reveal aspects of your own unacknowledged self. When you begin to own these projections, they lose their power to control you, and you may find that the people who once seemed problematic start to soften in your eyes. The body, too, holds shadows. Emotions are often stored in the body long after the mind has forgotten them. To access these hidden aspects, practice body awareness techniques, yoga, dance, or even simple breath work. Start by closing your eyes and focusing on areas of tension or discomfort in your body. Don't judge or try to change it, simply notice. Ask your body what it's holding. What is it trying to tell you? Trust that your body has wisdom that goes beyond the intellect. This process may bring up sensations or memories you've long buried. Allow them to surface without resistance. As you breathe into these spaces, you begin to integrate the emotional material stored there. Sometimes the shadow must be approached with reverence, as one would approach an ancient temple. Creating a ritual or ceremony is a powerful way to honor and invite your shadow into your conscious awareness. You might choose a quiet evening to light a candle and offer a prayer or affirmation to your shadow self. Acknowledge its presence, and give it a space at the table of your life. For instance, you could say, "I honor the parts of myself that I have denied. I invite my shadow to join me in the light. May I see and embrace you with compassion and courage." Ritual helps create a sacred space for integration, making the process feel less like therapy and more like a spiritual journey. The ritual is not about forcing change, but about making space for what needs to emerge. Shadow work can be intense. It can stir up emotions that feel overwhelming. But be gentle with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of perfectionism, feeling like you should fix your shadow, or have it all figured out in a short time. But the truth is, integration is a slow, organic process. And it often involves taking 2 steps forward, then 1 step back. When you feel overwhelmed, take a break. Practice grounding techniques, walk barefoot on the earth, meditate, or reconnect with nature. These moments of stillness will help you regain balance, so you can continue your journey. Remember, the shadow is not a burden to carry, but a part of you to be integrated. It is the key to deeper understanding, to greater freedom, and to the wholeness of your soul. You've walked through ancient whispers and modern truths. You've descended into mythic underworlds and surfaced with keys of transformation. You've seen that the shadow is not your enemy, it is the forgotten architect of your wholeness. And now, a deeper truth calls to you: the work is never truly done. Shadow work is not a single rite of passage, but a spiral. Each time you think you've reached the center, the spiral turns again. Another layer, another voice, another part of you calling to be seen. But don't let this discourage you. Let it awaken something ancient inside, something that remembers the sacredness of the long journey. Because each descent you make into the self is a reclamation of power, a step closer to integration, and a return to your authentic soul. This work will challenge you. It will confront your illusions. But it will also free you. You'll begin to feel the difference between reaction and response, illusion and truth, projection and presence. Relationships deepen. Inner chaos gives way to clarity. Life becomes less about avoidance, and more about embodiment. And as you continue this path, you'll begin to see others differently. You'll recognize the wounds behind their anger, the fear beneath their control, the pain hidden in their pride. Compassion will flow, not from superiority, but from shared humanity. Because you've dared to face what others run from. And in doing so, you become a beacon, not of perfection, but of depth. So I leave you with a question, one that echoes through time, asked by mystics, initiates, and seekers: what part of you still waits in the dark, for you to come home? If this journey stirred something within you, share your insights in the comments. What aspect of your shadow are you ready to face? And if you found value in this exploration, consider subscribing, for the journey into the hidden, the ancient, and the true has only just begun. Until next time, walk gently, and with fierce courage.